Mind you, all right.
Right, we're going to go. Yeah. Okay. Right, good afternoon, everybody. Right, we're not going to turn the lights out today. We ain't got no projector. Well, we have, but we don't need a projector, shall we say. How can I put it? I mean, I know Ken, but I don't know him too well personally, but I know a lot about him, and I think quite a few of you here know a lot about him as well, because he's well published, well publicised, and as I put in the note on the email, that he was last year, was it last year? This year? No, last year, awarded Freedom of the Borough of Surrey Heath. So well done you. And I say that's no mean achievement for anybody. So we're very privileged in that case to have our honoured friend here with us. He's also a friend of the museum for many moons, written lots of books on local history, and therefore we hope he has a wealth of information and whatever to pass on to us this afternoon. So thank you, Ken, for coming along.
Thank you for introducing me.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I just wondered how much you know about me. That was
Well,
all.
you know, you see.
It's quite worrying.
I kept some back.
Right, well, good evening, everybody. Good evening, God. Take two. Good afternoon, everybody. Yes. Just to let you know, this is my 400th talk or walk or whatever since 1983. So you're quite privileged. You can say, when I'm dead and gone, that you were there at my 400th talk. I've got a list of them at home, funny enough. 1983 was the first one. Philatelix, he was there. It was to the Bagshot Society. Their lecturer had gone skiing abroad and he had broken a leg, and they phoned me up at short notice, would I go and give a talk? I'd never given talks before. Anyway, you don't want to hear that. Anyway, I'm here, and I always like to start off with something light-hearted. And if I can read to you, it says, in a train from London to Manchester, an American was berating the Englishman who was sitting opposite. The trouble with you English is that you're too stuffy. You set yourselves apart too much. You think your stiff upper lip makes you above the rest of us. Look at me. I'm me. I have a little Italian in me, a bit of Greek blood, a little Irish, and some Spanish blood. What do you say to that? The Englishman lowered his newspaper and replied, how very sporting of your mother. I thought that would go down well. Right, I'm here to tell you about the Freedom of the Borough Award, which I was awarded October the 23rd last year. And let me just take you back. The beginning of that was my late mother had a lot of letters from France, from various people. She had my father bought a house in College Ride, Camberley, in 1936. Paid £535 for a three-bedroom detached house. Absolute robbery. Plus £90 for a third of an acre of land. And while my father was away in the RAF, my mother had various Frenchmen staying with her who were billeted in the Old Dean camp, where the Old Dean estate now is. And a number of letters, and my French is about as bad as my English at times. So I contacted Jack Elmo, who's a local councillor for Frimley Green, and asked him if he would translate the letters for me. So I sent him an email. After a few attempts, my computer skills, my computer and I sometimes have a very fractious relationship. Anyway, he responded quite quickly, and I looked at the email, and it got obviously where I'd put, Jack, could you please help me? And I thought, oh, that's got back to him pretty quick. Then I started to read through it, and it said something about freedom of the borough. What's all that about then? Didn't know what he meant, really. And so I contacted him, and he said, oh, you've been awarded, really? And he asked me what I wanted to be known as. Do I want to be known as Kenneth? Not really, no. I said, if I'd been a girl, my mother told me I would be called Pamela, so I don't want to be called Pamela particularly. Ken Clarke will do. And he said, oh, OK, fine. And then I got an official invitation from the mayor, or the mayoress, or mayor, lady mayor, whatever. And I thought, what's all that about? So I phoned up somebody from the council who is her sort of helper and arranges things for her. And I said, what happens? Oh, she said, you get invited to go along, you sit and then you're called up. And I said, is there a facility? Does one talk afterwards, just thank them? She says, well, yes, you can, as long as don't take too long. Oh, okay, right. So I thought, well, I wonder what I do. And I said, how many people? She said, there's 5 other organisations and people going to do it. And you'll be called up alphabetically. And I said, where do I fall in? She says, you're second. Oh, okay. Let's see what happens then. So I went along, and you could invite up to 10 friends. As long as it wasn't 10 relatives, because I'm an only child and I've got 2 children. So I thought, children, they're 55 and 54 children, but the gap stays the same, doesn't it? So I invited them, obviously, with their respective partners and some friends. And Julie arrived at the council offices, dressed in a suit. I look quite swish, although I say it myself. I do have some photographs you can look at afterwards, and I'll show you. And got there and spoke to the woman who showed us to the seat. And I said, what happens? Oh, well, you'll sit here, you get called up. It was in the main council chamber, and all the councillors were all sitting in a row, and ex-mayors are there as well. Oh, gosh, it's pretty formal. And I said to her, what does the freedom of the borough mean? I said, can I drive my sheep down the high street on a Sunday? Can I park on double yellow lines? Do I get free car parking? And she said, no. I said, oh, OK. City of London, you can drive your sheep across Tower Bridge, not Surrey Heath. OK, fine. So I then found out there was going to be 5 or 6 of one people. And just out of interest, if I tell you what they were, the first one was Camberley Care. And it said, in recognition of 50 years of volunteering within the community in support of the elderly, disabled and vulnerable members of the borough. I thought, gosh, that'll be me soon, I thought. And secondly was my good self. And it says, in recognition of the public service to the borough as a police officer and as a local historian for his work to promote the history of Surrey Heath. I thought, well, that sounds grand. All I've done is written a few books, given a few talks, but, I'll accept it. The second one was a Maureen Hume, in recognition of her essential service to the community, working tirelessly in support of local people with dementia and their carers, and as founder and chair of the Camberley Alzheimer's Cafe. And the fourth one was a Karen Jackson, in recognition of her essential services to the community as founder and chair of Chloe's and Sophie's Special Ears Fund charity in support of local deaf children. And next one was Mary Keys, in recognition of her extensive public services to education as a head teacher and school governor and an educational researcher and a service to charity. And last, Alex Matthews, in recognition of her international rugby career and service in support of the development of community sport within the borough. I thought, wow, they deserve it far more than me. Anyway, the mayor comes in all her regalia with the guy who carries the mace. I think it's the mace. Is it the mace, Alan? Yes. Yes, it is. Thank you. This thing, great. I thought, gosh, it's very official. Wow. She takes her seat and everybody, she gives a small speech of welcome. And then she said, the first person is, and she says it's Camberley Care. And then she has to put it to the council. Camberley Care, is that agreed, everybody? Agreed. I thought it was just, she just awarded it, but no, the council have to agree, or the councillors have to agree to every person who's awarded it. So a man goes up to collect the award, and I thought, I'll listen to what he has to say. It'll give me a few lines. He never said a word. I thought, I'm going to be the fool guy here, I thought. So he sat down, and now it's Ken Clarke for his services, and she reads out the little blurb I've just read to you. Everybody agreed. Nobody abstained or said no, that's good. And then I had 2 councillors, should have told you before, 2 councillors then stand up, but they're the ones who, I suppose, either recommended me or whatever. And they give a short speech of why they did it. Rob Lee was one, and Murray Rowlands was the other. And then I get called up, go and see Mayor, shake her hands. And the first thing I said was, gosh, your hands are cold. And she looked at me and says, I've got a warm heart. I said, really, Mayor? Is that what you should be saying, you know? And she presents it to me and gives me this, that, and I'll show you pictures later. It's a big scroll in a thing about this big, but it was too big to carry. But and she always gives you a little badge. Oh, there it is. Look at that. Oh, I know. I put it around my neck once, but I put it back in there now. I know when I did, is it 20? I think it's 21 years in the police force. They give you a police and good conduct and long service medal. Well, I refused to go and get mine, and I got threatened with discipline if I didn't go and get it. I still didn't go and get it, but they give you a little thing you've done 20. That's in my downstairs toilet. My late wife worked for the NHS for 45 plus years. Hers is also in the downstairs toilet. This thing is so big, I don't know where to put it out. Now, there's no room on the wall in the downstairs toilet, so I've got to find somewhere else to put it. Anyway, and then my turn came to speak, and I thought, what am I going to say? I've got a vague idea, because originally the woman said, you don't talk for too long. No, I'm going to talk. And I talked, and I thought I'm going to get in a bit about police numbers. Because when I was at Camden in the 1980s, we had a police station, and B, in Camberley alone, just at Camberley police station, there were 100 police officers. 100. I'm not talking about police community support officers. They're civilians in uniform. There was 100 police officers. In addition, there was 14 at Frimley, and there was 9 at Bagshot. And I said, and how many are there now? And everybody's going, I said, answers on a postcard, please. I know how many there is, and it's frightening. No wonder you never see them out walking. Anyway, I gave my speech, and I sat down, and Alan took photographs, and I sat down to, is it thunderous applause, the expression I should use, Alan, is it?
That's fair enough, yeah.
Yeah, thunderous applause. And after that, all the others went up and obviously got their awards, which was nice, and everybody clapped. And the deaf and dumb one, they were talking like this too. They had somebody translating for the people who were there. One thing I was going to learn it at one time, but I think it's quite difficult, I would think, to learn. And then after that, we all adjourned to the mayor's parlour, I suppose, or somewhere where there were nibbles and drinks. I only had soft drinks, obviously, because I don't drink alcohol very much. The last time I had a drink, I think, was July the 14th last year. I went down to see a friend of mine, and I had a glass of wine on 2 evenings on the trot. I felt quite guilty. My body accepted it, but I drink that. That's good. That's good enough for me, water. Oh, Gordon's water is. It's very good. So anyway, in there we could talk to them. There was a lot of ex-mayors present, as I mentioned before. One of them I used to go to school with. And just before I went in, I spoke to him, and he went and completely ignored me and walked off. I thought, that's not very nice. But it was quite good. There were a lot of people I spoke to there, and they spoke to me as well. So it was quite a nice convivial evening, and something to remember by. But I thought I'd mention a bit about my police books and things, or police work I've done. Just out of interest, if you haven't, I've just brought along a small selection of my books, only just to show you, really. There's that one. That was my first book. That came out in 1984, and it took me 3 years to write that one. I was useless at English at school, and when I went on to Brooklands Tech at Weybridge, it took me 4 goes to get GCE O level. 4 goes, 43, 45, 45, and then the pass mark 47. Yes, I was there. And I published it, or paid for it myself. I spent that book cost me £3,800. That was a lot of money in 1984. My father had died the year before, so I had a bit of money that I could spare. I thought, I'm never going to get this back. And I met somebody when I was talking like I'm talking to you now, and he said, oh, I'm in the publishing business, I could print it for us. How much? Oh, you don't want to worry about that. I said, well, I do a bit, you know, I'm going to pay for it. He said, well, you want a good job done, don't you? I said, well, yeah. He said, how many were you thinking of doing? I said, I don't know, a couple of hundred. Oh, no, you've got to have 1,000 done. Because in those days, there was no computers. It was all, you know, once you decided on 1,000 copies, that was it. You couldn't go back and then have another 20 or so. Anyway, he wouldn't catch on with the cost. And eventually he presented me with the bill. I thought, crimes, how am I going to pay for it? You know, I'll sell the books. So I decided, with the help of Gerald and the two Solomon brothers, the car showroom on the corner of St George's Road, I launched them from there on a Saturday morning. Lots of publicity from the local paper, the Camden News, and they publicised it. And I sold about 200 quid worth of books. I thought, I made. Geoffrey Archer, who's he, you know? Eat your heart out, I'm going to make a fortune. Anyway, I think in 12 weeks I sold out. So I had another lot done, So two years later, I thought I'd do another one. This was Camden during the First World War. And I thought, I'm going to have my name with the title because I like that. And then from then on, I've done various other books. Time, Gentlemen, Police is about the pubs in Camden and Frimley. In Camden and Frimley, 1905, there were 33 pubs. There were 16 on the London Road. That was from the Lamb down at Blackwater up to what is now the Golf Shop, the Jolly Farmer, or the Golden Farmer prior to that. And they've all gone now. There's not a single one. And then I did another one. You've probably heard about the unsolved murder in 1906 of Mary Ann Hogg. She lived with her half-sister Caroline Grinnell Hogg. London Road, past the old Blue Pool, past Diamond Ridge, just about opposite there was a house there. And Mary Ann was found in the scullery in the rented house with her virtually head severed from her body. Who did it? My dad said it was the half-sister. And I've done a lot of research into it, because there were lots of papers around in those days that are no longer published. I think it was her. And eventually she moved to Japan, and she inherited her sisters, or her dead sisters, in a will. I've done all the wills. And she eventually died in Japan and left all her money to a Norwegian consul. Interesting. Also in this one is about the murder in 1930 of Lieutenant Hubert George Chevis, an army officer, got married 6 months previously. He lived at Deepcut. They were going to go to the Aldershot Tattoo at Rushmore Arena. Suddenly fell ill, and after having dinner of a partridge, and he eventually died through strychnine poisoning. And as you probably know, poisoning is usually the woman's method of killing people. His wife had been married previously to a vet. He had got an alibi, they reckon, and she married 3 more times after that, mostly to army officers. And she died in Monaco. I've got a death certificate in French. Yeah. And then last but by no means least, I thought, as I'm getting on a bit now, 50 odd, you know, you tend to think of you've got a lot that way, but you haven't got much longer that way. So I thought I'd write a book about my life. That is me.
Ken, it's worth saying that those books are on sale downstairs.
Oh, I don't do that, do I?
I think you should. Well, some of them are anyway. So
Yeah, I know.
oh, have a look. Yeah.
I give them the books. I don't get anything back for it. Now, I said I'd show you some pictures taken by... Who took the photographs, Alan, at this ceremony?
Oh, I can't remember.
Could have been you, do you reckon? That's with me with the mayor, with her cold hands. I'm the one on the left. And that's a close-up with my suit and a green tie. I like green. It's my Irish heritage. And that's me talking in a very relaxed manner. And that's with my children. Children, they're taller than me. I've got 3 grandkids, they're all taller than me as well. And that's the last one, that's of all the people who were awarded, all the recipients with their scrolls that are everything else. And I thought there's some larger pictures of of my good self. I'm afraid it's going to be me. I know it's not nice, but that was a younger looking me than my first book. That was a picture that appeared in the Canby News. I look quite swish there, don't I? Yeah. Oh, you could sound a bit enthusiastic about it. God dear, come on. I've got black hair for a start. And cats, I'm very fond of cats. I don't mean to eat, but to have. I'm on my 6th cat now. I think she will inherit the house. My first cat, our first cat, lived to be 21. Yeah, she's now, Barbara MacDonald, some of you may or may not remember, used to be in the Camden News, obviously above 4 High Street, Camden, 4A. That's where my mother used to live, and me. When my parents split up, my mother worked for Eastman's Dyers and Cleaners, started there in 1948, at a salary of £3 a week. And eventually we were allowed to move into the flat there, and she died, but they allowed me to keep the flat on until I got married, which was very kind of them. And the cat, that was taken in our kitchen. I recognised the wallpaper. And again, that's me at Frimley Police Office. The cat, Bob, he was knocked down outside. They couldn't find an owner, so the RSP, I said to the RSP, we'll have that. So we kept the cat at the office for a couple of years, till it ran off again. It's quite useful. It used to sit in my in tray. And this one, I'm afraid I did go through a funny phase at one time, but I don't do it very often. Why would I dress like that, you might well ask. It's the only time I've done it. No, honestly, no, really, true. I wrote a book, I copied a book, Richard. Mike Stone, some of you may remember, as solicitor in Camberley here in Nickinson a long time ago. His wife used to run a second-hand stall, and she was clearing out a house in Alexandra Road, or Edward Avenue, I think it might well have been. And she'd come across this handwritten diary. It was in a book, very handwritten, 1897, 1898. And it was written by a woman who was born up in Derbyshire. And it was lovely writing. It was difficult to read. It all looks nice, all these loops and things, difficult to read. Anyway, she lent it to me. And I thought, I'll photocopy this. So I said to the Chief Inspector at Camden, can I photocopy it? Oh, yes. I said, it's just a few copies. I was there all day doing it. Well, I was working, obviously. So I had it, and I had it for years. And eventually I thought, I'm going to print it out and write it out and type it out and see what I can make of it. And I wrote a book, and it's fascinating. She's a woman who came from a well-to-do family. She used to go to bicycle gymkhanas. She used to go to dinner dances, go to Ireland for a holiday. And she writes, and her father married 3 times. And the stepmother she had last, she described her as odious. Couldn't get on with her at all, didn't like her at all. And she married an army officer and came to live in Camberley. And I know the house where she lived, and I've actually been in the house. And she got no money. And the army officer sometimes fell asleep on the train and had to come back again. Fascinating. And another picture, every year, I don't think they do it now, the Conservative Party used to hold a small business conference, small business persons conference at Lakeside Country Club. And they used to want a police presence, so I'd go down there with somebody else. And this particular year, I said to the photographer, I said, if you're going to take a picture, where shall I get? And he said, go over there now. Right, stay there. He said, I can get you get your picture. And this, who the hell they were, I do not know. Honestly, you go to have your picture taken, and they walk in cross. I expect you recognise the woman. The man is Michael Grills. Used to be our MP at Surrey Heath, Bear Grylls' father.
Sir Michael Grills.
Sorry?
Sir Michael.
Not when he had his picture taken, he won. With the helicopter affair, wasn't it? He had to go. Thank you. And then eventually I retired from the police force when I was 49. A couple of years ago, obviously, mainly because if I could have stayed longer till I was 55, I think. But the commutation, in other words, you can elect to lose £100 of pension, you got £1,500, and for every birthday until I was 55, it would go down by £75. I thought, I'm not having that. So I started work. I'd set up a little courier company, and then I lost my main business person, and I eventually ended up working 16 and a half years for chauffeuring the chief exec at Royal Ascot about. And during Royal Ascot Week, one would pick up all sorts of celebrities, one of whom was Bear Grylls. And I said to him, I've met your father, have you? And I told him about, I told him that one particular day, when they opened Frimley Park Hospital in 1972, I think it was, Barbara Castle came down to open it up. Prior to officially opening the hospital, she also opened up the Camberley Health Centre in Frimley Road. And I attended Frimley Road, and Michael Grylls came in late in his car, got out, left his keys in the ignition, off he goes in there. And the idea was that then the dignitaries would come out, whip off quickly down to Frimley Park, line up again. Barbara Castle would take her time to be driven down there. Anyway, Michael Grylls came out from that. Oh, gosh, looking for his car keys. I'm standing there, I've got them in my hand, you know. I said, any trouble? He goes, I've lost the damn car keys. I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, I don't know where the hell they are. I've got to get down. I said, you're looking for these? I said, you left him in the car. You! And his language, well, even Bear Grylls was surprised. He said, no, that sounds like my dad. And then they obviously went on down to Frimley Park then to officially open Frimley Park Hospital then. Right. 3 minutes to go. Does anybody want to ask any questions? Oh, you're welcome to come look at these photographs, if you so wish. But if nobody wants to ask me anything?
Did you enjoy your time in the police force in Camberley?
Policing was extremely different. When I was at Red Hill, where I met my good lady wife, she had broken down in a car and had parked in a no waiting area. I approached in a very stern way and said to her, why are you parked here? She said, my petrol pump's faulty. I said, shouldn't be here, you know. Got chatting to her. She said she lived in Ascot. I said, I thought Ascot? Wow, money. I bet Dad's got a big car. Anyway, I chatted her up and she was just going to start work at Wexham Park Hospital. 1966 this was. And I thought, might be worth getting a telephone number. So I took a telephone number. Julie rang her up and said, where should we go to dinner? I went, oh, that'd be nice. I said, give us your address. And she said, oh, it's 26 Lower Village Road. I thought, oh, well, it might be a big house. You know, they're not all squirrels leap and all the rest of it. So I go to pick her up. Ordinary house, Lower Village Road. What sort of car did her dad have? A rusty, one of those Vauxhall with the wrap round windscreen, rust buckets they were. So in the end we got married, so that was that really. Yes, it was. But yeah, and if you arrested somebody, at Red Hill we had trouble with yobs, lads. You ask them to move 3 times, if they didn't put a hand on them, you're nicked. You could walk them back to the police station, they'd never run off. You had respect for one another. Came to Camberley, same thing, okay. Got promoted, got to Frimley, and one particular day, it was raining. Some of the lads who were on builders, labourers, got rained off because it was raining, got tanked up a bit, ran off, didn't pay. I followed one of them, and he went to punch me. And in those days, we had a transmitter, which I keep for the personal radios. So you had a transmitter which you hold, and the receiver would be stuck in his shirt pocket or somewhere. And he went to hit me in the most, and my immediate reaction was and he fell at my ground unconscious. I thought, Christ, I've killed him, you know. What am I going to get out of this? Anyway, he came round, called up for assistance, bunged him in the back of the police car, down the hospital. And the sister said, what happened to him? I said, he head-butted my radio, because my radio was split into pieces. So that was the first time anybody went to hit me. Not the last, but the first. Times have changed, haven't they? There used to be a sort of mutual respect. Anyway, first off, let me just end with something. I started off with something French, so let me just end up with something that's got a French connection. Like Gene Hackman, just died, hasn't he? The film, did you ever see The French Connection? Popeye Doyle. Brilliant, wasn't he? Anyway, this is about a Frenchman who went into his church. An elderly Frenchman went into his local church's confessional. Forgive me, Father, he said, I've sinned. He said, during the Second World War, a beautiful woman knocked on my door and asked me to hide her from the enemy, and I put her in the attic. No need to ask forgiveness for that, my son, says the priest. It was a wonderful thing to do. Ah, said the man, but she started offering me sexual favours in return, and I went along with it. Well, he said, people in wartime situations do many funny things. If you're truly sorry for your actions, you are forgiven. Oh, that's a great load off my mind, said the priest, said the Frenchman. He said, do you mind if I ask you a question before I go? No, he said, what is it? He said, well, she's getting on a bit now. He says, do you think I should tell her the war's over? Right, that's it, I'm finished.
Yeah. Thanks, Ken. That brought back lots of memories.
Oh.
What, the Frenchman, the woman in the loft?
No. Well, you know the house that in the avenue where this lady, I've forgotten her name, but she was there for a very short time.
Yeah.
That's
Opposite
the
you,
old-
wasn't she?
That's the oldest house in the avenue,
Yeah.
and it's still got its well, although it's now built over and there's a sort of imitation top put there. And the water was pumped down into the cellar, and from there you could, you got pure water, and they had it analysed, and it's really, very good for drinking. So if you want, they can still give you some if you want.
Thank you, that's very kind of you, Phil, thank you.
No, it's just that, and you did get a really big laugh when we had the history club and you dressed up as this lady.
Rosamond Clare Newton,
That's right.
her name was. I actually traced her daughter, who lived down in Devon, and she lived about 200 yards from Agatha Christie's daughter's house. And it was quite sad. I went down to see her once on my own, and she showed me a lot of pictures, and I took photographs of them out in the garden because it was sunny. And one of them was an army officer with his foot on a chair, the Sam Brown belt on. And I said to her, who's this? And she said, oh, he was a friend of mine. She never got married. And Pamela, her name was. Pamela, oh, I could have been a Pamela. And then I took Monica down as well and had another chat with her. And she'd had a stroke, so she wasn't all that with it physically, but mentally she was. I had a long chat with her about what life was like. And eventually I managed to trace another relative of hers, and blow me if she hadn't lived in Hartley Whitney. But she now lived up in, not far from Derby. And I spoke to her and she said, would you like to come up for lunch? I said, oh, that's awfully nice. She said, do you like pheasant? Pheasant, I've never eaten it in my life. So I went up to see her and I put them in touch with one another. They hadn't spoken to one another for 50 years. And when I went to see this woman for lunch, it's not a bungalow, but it's a bungalow with an upstairs. And she's got this huge, one of these large paintings about 4 foot by 8 of 3 children. And I said, gosh, that's a nice painting. She said, yes. She said, it's by J.J. Wright, I thought, whoever he is. And she said, I'm actually lending it to the National Gallery. Oh, I said, oh, gosh, if that's impressive. Anyway, I looked up J.J. Wright, and his pictures sell for £1 million. J.J. Wright of Derby. Anyway, but Pamela Fox-Strange died, and her house was empty, and it was burgled. And she had some original medals. I've got photographs of them. For her great uncle, Brigadier Fox-Strange, got awarded Battle of Leipzig, I think it was 1813 or so. And he did noble things. He got presented with 2 medals on the field of battle by the Russian Tsar and the Crown Prince of Sweden. And I've got pictures of them. They were taken as well. And then a few years down the line, a woman phoned me, and I didn't take her detail. And she, I think, was the woman who, Pamela, I think, left it to her goddaughter, because she, as I say, she was unmarried. And she left it to her goddaughter. I think she might have been the goddaughter who was due everything. And she said, I wonder where the medal's gone. I just found them for sale at Sotheby's. She said, I'm going to try and say they're mine. But she never rang back, and I never found out who she was. Intrigue. I'll stop talking now. You can go and have your lunch. Honestly, I'll stop.
I was going to ask you another question. What was your connection with Italy? Was it
France.
Oh, France.
Yeah.
No.
Next door to each other, you know.
Sorry?
Next door to each other. France, Italy.
France, because my mother had people from the Free French staying with her billeted in the house. And the letters are written in French.
Someone else.
And my French is not that good.
Yes, sir.
No, it's okay. I'll leave that one.
It wasn't Italy. I used to go on holidays to Italy, but that's
Oh, that's
by and by.
right. That's what why did you go to Italy?
Well,
Being personal.
when they used to run a boat service to Sweden, it was the first holidays with kids or something, we went to Sweden for a holiday because it was free and easy, and it was just nice. We had a log cabin, so occasionally the kids were eating foreign food. We used to take a rubber boat, and we got to enjoy it a lot. Then the last time we went for 2 weeks, the weather was atrocious, so I thought we'd go somewhere where it's sunny. So it's either Italy or Bognor Regis. And as King George VI said about Bognor, he wasn't impressed when he was asked to go there. He wanted to go there to convalesce. So we went to Italy for holiday, and I made friends there with an Italian family who'd got four daughters. God. And we kept in touch with them all the time. I've been to we went to all 4 daughters' weddings in Italy. They're very different. They don't wear hats. Monica wore a hat. So she had a picture taken. Oh, Capello, Signora Capello, taking pictures. Yeah, and we just kept in touch with them. I've known them. Well, they've all grown up. They've all got children of their own. And we used to go back quite regularly and see them and stay with them. So that's my connection to Italy.
Right.
I've got a connection with Ireland as well. My grandfather was Irish. My mother's father, first ever Irish guardsman he was, but that's another story. Don't.
Okay. Let you off now.
Thanks.
You've done brilliantly. I think we've all been well entertained. And there is a serious side, your books. You've done very well with those. And I do have, which I was going to put up for auction really, your first book. And inside it says, with the compliments of Ken Clarke.
That's me.
That's you.
Yeah.
The person who had it was just giving it back for sale as a second-hand book.
Oh, right.
But since it's so special, it's not for sale, it's up for auction. Because that's the only way we make money in this place. So, right. Thanks, really. We all enjoyed that very much.
That's right. Glad you did. So I've got pictures if you want to look at them, and you can look at that if you so wish.
Phil, can I just make a quick announcement about next week? Next week we've got a friend of ours, friend of Alan and mine, a chap named Paul McCall. He's a friend because we meet him at Brookwood Wargraves every month, or sometimes even more frequently. He is the trustee executive of the World War II Secret Learning Centre and SOE, Special Operations Executive. A very special speaker. We've got a good one today, okay? So I'm not sort of degrading Ken by any means.
No, I won't feel
but
offended.
This is a star attraction for us. You know, we've gone to great lengths to try and get him to come here. We saw him on Sunday, and he's just returned from northern Italy, researching 2 of his agents that died out there, and he's on it all the time. You know, and he's a great character, a great speaker, and we feel quite privileged in a way to have him come along for our small group. So please spread the word. And he's going to have a chat with Gillian downstairs because he's interested in the current exhibition, which is about World War II and VE Day. So please come along. Thank you, Ken.
You can downgrade me as well.
Yeah.
You missed the breakfast again this morning.
I assume you'd be fed up.